Well, this is the Turd Mark 1, otherwise known as the Turtle Mark 1, a Tier 8 premium British tank destroyer that has come into the stores in crates today. Now, I'm already going to tell you don't waste any single cent on this tank because it's a pile of junk, and you shouldn't have this sitting in your garage collecting dust. But I will still do a full-down review if you'd like to know why it is a pile of junk and why you should never ever want this vehicle. Now, it's very rare for me to not like a premium vehicle. In fact, when the T25 Pilot 1 came out and all the YouTubers were saying it was junk, I didn't mind it. In fact, I still don't mind the T25 Pilot 1. It's an average Tier 8 medium, it can hold its own, and it's quite enjoyable to play. That's the exact same for the STG Guard. I absolutely love the tank and I'm sitting over 80% win rate in it. This, we knew all the way from when Wargaming nerfed it, was going to be a pile of crap, and I'll be showing you that in today's video because there's almost nothing redeemable I can tell you about this tank. So first of all, well, let's look at the gun. The gun on the vehicle has .344 dispersion. Now, why a Tier 8 tank destroyer has the same dispersion as an IS-4, I don't know. So first of all, it's not very accurate. The dispersion is quite bad. The aiming time is okay, and the on-movement dispersion is actually pretty solid, but still the base dispersion is absolute dog. So that already isn't great. The DPM looks pretty solid until you realize that I am running Rammer, which I normally never run. So really the DPM is only about 2,700 on this vehicle, which again, isn't that impressive when you compare a vehicle like the AT-15 over here, sitting at over 3,938 DPM. And by the way, this thing's free. It doesn't cost you, oh yeah, it cost me 60 bucks to get this tank, by the way, everybody. So yeah, not great there either. So far, we've only noticed things that aren't great about the tank. While the DPM's not bad, it's definitely nothing impressive, especially for a British tank destroyer that only goes 20 kilometers per hour. Now, it does have good gun depression, I'll give it that. It goes 10 degrees of gun depression, but yeah, you know, it's pretty much like a Badger is what you'd expect at Tier 8, except it doesn't have the armor. The gun, I actually do like the average damage at 330. That's something that's nice. And the average HE at 430 is also pretty nice. But as I said, 20 kilometers per hour top speed, not great. Even though the power to weight's not bad, it still only goes 20. And the traverse speed at 33 is decent, but it's nothing to die for. But if we go over to Chrome, you can take a look at the armor. Now, sadly, Armor Inspector doesn't have the updated files for the tank, but this is the turtle, right? The upper bar on this vehicle, yep, that's right. You can't really read it that well, but it's 163 millimeters thick, that whole entire upper bar. This lower bar here is 163 millimeters thick. This lower bar that is yellow is 130. That is 3 massive weak spots on the top of the tank and as well the bottom of the tank we've already discussed, and that are massive and easy to penetrate with any Tier 7 vehicle in the game. The upper plate on this tank is decent at 250, but that means pretty much any Tier 8 can easily butter through it with premium. God, is this tank's armor just awful. And you're going to see that in the 2 games I started. I didn't even do well in the games, but I honestly didn't care because I wanted to show how much of a piece of junk this vehicle is. Even fully hauled down, that upper bar is only 170, and the lower one is 170. It's useless on armor. It has no armor, even though this is supposed to be like a Badger. The Badger, as much as I don't enjoy playing it sometimes, I'll give it credit where credit's due, it has good armor. The upper plate on the Badger is solid. This tank's armor is dog. It is crap, and it is terrible like a turd. So, yeah, that's the turtle for you. Also, fun fact, this upper, or should I say the roof, is 40 millimeters thick, which means, and you're going to see that in the games here, which means that any tank that has a 122 millimeter or higher can overmatch your entire roof. So, an IS series, any IS series tank can just shoot at the roof of your tank, and if it hits that, it'll pen. Any VK168, any tank destroyer with a 122 or a 128 will easily pen right on the roof of your vehicle. Yeah, that's not super fun, is it? But I guess enough chitter chatter. Let's actually look at some replays here on the Turtle Mark 1. Now let's start with the game that went okay, but was a loss on mines. I didn't think this game was terrible, and it did illustrate that the vehicle has some good things going for it, but overall, it really doesn't. You're going to see 2 Annihilators literally just murder this thing because for some reason Wargaming didn't think to give the turtle armor. All it needs is armor. That's it. That is the missing thing that they screwed on this vehicle. How could you possibly make a vehicle that is meant to be like a Badger, but forget to add the armor on it? It's so sad. And me and Batchat Begins both made videos on this tank when it was nerfed and said it was going to be a piece of crap. And, well, would you look at that? It came out, and our suspicions were right, because what happens when you make a heavily armored vehicle and take away the armor, but yet give it no mobility and take away all the advantages that it would normally have? Now, you can see the gun is decent. I was able to tap that IS-5 twice and take off a pretty decent slug of hit points. Tap the Annihilator. I do like that alpha, and as I said, the DPM's not bad, so you are able to punch a couple shells into the enemy opponents, but if I was in an AT-15, I'd probably be sitting at maybe 1,500 damage in that moment, because the AT-15 has got over 1,000 more damage per minute. There's another nice tap into the Annihilator for 350. I just don't get why they couldn't have made the armor good on the tank. There's another nice tap on the IS-5. Now we're sitting at 1,600 damage. Again, not bad, but at the same time, my team is just bad. I don't really know why they're dying so quickly, but they really are. Now, for a fun fact for any of you, I did not realize that the lower plate of the Turtle was terrible. I thought it was just the upper bar. So, I was very surprised when you're going to see what these Annihilators do also. Really, how does that bounce? Well, probably because that .344 dispersion decided to hit him in the upper bar instead of the lower. So here we are, we've got the Progetto over here, and he's just going to butter right through my bar. As I said, easy pen. There you go, right through it, without even a premium shell. We got the Annihilator over here, and of course my IS-2 just bounces the shot, because, you know, skills. So here we are, trying to shoot this Annihilator as much as I can. I'm in a 1 versus 3 scenario, and the entire team is a 3 versus 7. So, yeah, not all too good. That Progetto is going to start shooting me. So let's look at where these shells are penning me, everybody, shall we? Oh, yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4 shells that all penned in my lower plate. Let's see how this Annihilator does here. 1, 2, and 3 penetrations on my lower plates. And would you look at that, the Progetto kills me. So there you have it, folks. Not only could an Annihilator pen me all 3 shells, and that thing's only got about 220 pen on my lower bar, but then I don't think I bounced I bounced 1 shell from 1 Annihilator, and it was an AP. So there you have it. That is the Turtle's armor. It doesn't have any. The armor on this tank is absolutely useless, and it's definitely Wargaming's fault. There's nobody to blame here but Wargaming. There were 2 videos out there, and, you know, I think Batchat's video got over 10,000 views, and my video got over 10,000 views. That's 20,000 people that watched knowing that this tank was going to be a pile of crap. And the annoying thing about it is that Wargaming contacts us and tells us not to make videos about these tanks before they come out. There's a reason why we make videos on these tanks before they come out, because we don't want people, when these things instantly come out, to waste their money on something that isn't going to be good. And this is a perfect example. Oh, I clicked on the wrong replay. This is a perfect example of a terrible deal. I really wouldn't even suggest my worst enemies to buy this tank. Now, I don't think it's awful if you were to maybe camp in it or try and use the DPM. But the issue here is we already have a tank that has honestly better armor. The AT-15A, or the AT-15, the Tier 8 Tech Tree Tank Destroyer, sure, while it does have cupolas, the lower plate, it doesn't have one. So you can actually sit out in the open with that vehicle. If you hide your cupolas or stay hull down, guess what? They can't shoot that lower plate. And the cupolas on the AT-15 are honestly smaller and harder to hit than the massive bar on the roof of this tank. So overall, the Turtle is a worse AT-15. It goes the same mobility. It's got worse damage per minute by 1,000. It's got worse accuracy by literally just a landslide to the AT-15. Not only does it have worse on everything, but it's even got worse armor. I don't understand how anybody in Wargaming thought this was possibly a good idea and then nerfed the armor. Like, I understand making a tank balanced is good, but nerfing the tank to a point where there's nothing going for it is not good. And that's the difference here. As many of you know, I very strongly support balancing of premium tanks. As I always say, I'm very happy when Wargaming releases a balanced premium. But I think this is the first time Wargaming has released a premium that is so far underpowered, and the fact that they're asking crates for it is actually ridiculous. Now, obviously, there is some fault in the buyer for spending money on this tank. If you buy this tank and then you complain without watching YouTube or learning anything beforehand, then that's obviously your fault as well, because you should be watching YouTube learning about the tank. But on the other aspect, you just watched an E25 go right through the front of this tank. Like, again, you can see how weak... I don't even know where he penned me, by the way. No clue where the shot penned. Oh, right on the upper bar. Yep, you can see it. So there you have it, folks. Right on the upper bar, if I pause it, you can see right through... There it is. Right through the little missile rack, or whatever you want to call it, the smoke flares. You can see the pen on my vehicle. There's a VK100, which did bounce me, granted. You can see, if you shoot the one part of the tank that is hard to pen, you will get bounces. But apart from that, it's not great. And there's that .344 dispersion. Oh boy, folks, look at that. Shell from the SU-130 going right through the roof of the vehicle, because as I said, it's 40 millimeters thick, which means you overmatch it. Oh boy, look at that, folks. Let's see where that pens me. Oh yeah, the roof of the tank, because it's 40 millimeters thick, and you can overmatch it. Yeah, what's that? Oh, this thing has no armor? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. So, yeah, that's the turtle. It has no armor, and that's the reason why I've been hating this vehicle. If it had armor, it would not be bad. Its DPM isn't terrible, and while the dispersion is bad, it's bearable. You can see that it's good enough to at least do its job. Occasionally, you'll have shells like that on the Bulldog where it'll kind of go a little bit loopy from where you aims, but it's not bad. But the fact that this thing can be penned frontally by an E25 with standard is ridiculous. And this thing needs to be buffed. Honestly, it shouldn't have been sold like this. We knew that it was bad. Wargaming probably knew it was bad. If they didn't, well, then we know why their devs are bad in general. But this was a wake-up call to Wargaming to learn how to balance a vehicle. Because right now, they clearly don't know how to. This thing is the turd. Turtle. Don't know what to say, but that's my review in the tank. Don't buy it. If you did, you are not very smart. But other than that, hopefully all of you are enjoying today's video and rants, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. That's about it. Subscribe.